question, maybe even one of these pucks, and every time you listen to Anthony and he stresses you out, listening to the podcast, you can just squeeze the life out of this.
There'd be nothing stressful. It's just laid back and easy.
Yeah, I know. You're laid back and easy. I get frustrated by you. Welcome back to Worst Seats in the House. Mike Russo, Anthony LaPanta, coming to you live from Elsie's. Thanks for everybody coming out on this beautiful Monday night. Very exciting day. We got merch up here. We got T-shirts, Worst Seats in the House T-shirts. But finally, the stress relief Worst Seats in the House pucks have come in. So now every time Anthony stresses me out, I just squeeze this.
the puck.
And
good. You'll get a good forearm workout tonight.
Yes, exactly. Anthony, once again, off on Tuesday night. Just really slacking lately.
I know. It is really unbelievable. I think there's another game on this homestand that we don't have as well.
Well, Kenny Albert's like, I'll see you 2 games in a row. I'm like, are both games national? And he's like, no, one's the Rangers, and then the next day, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, the Maple Leafs, right. So we've had 3 out of 5.
But you're not upset.
Well, I mean, I always would prefer to be working, but there's nothing I can do, so why would I get upset?
So you might as well just go to the golf course like you did today.
I did.
Yeah. How was
why
that?
Wouldn't I?
How was that?
It was great, actually. I saw the weather forecast for the week and figured, why not take advantage of today? It's supposed to snow this weekend, so went out.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Went out and worked on everything from 100 yards in. It was great.
That's I'm always amazed at Minnesota. You get these little teases where all of a sudden it's beautiful, 60, 65 degrees. The next thing you know, it snows.
Well, it's the second trip in a row that I've had terrible luck on the road, where 2 weeks ago we were down in Scottsdale, and the week before we went, it was 80. We were there for 4 days. It never got over about 65. It was like 38 in the morning with frost in our windows. Then I start getting these alerts on my phone. The temperature is warming up in Scottsdale. It's going to be 8 degrees warmer tomorrow. And now this weekend I stayed in Vegas because the game in Colorado was on national TV. And so the same thing all day today. I'm getting all these alerts about the weather in Vegas. It's going to be 10 degrees warmer than it was yesterday. We were there for 3 days. It was 60, 65. I'm not complaining about that compared to winter, but it was not like 80 and sunny like it is going to be the next couple of days.
You know who had worse luck while you were in Scottsdale?
No.
Your wife and daughters who were trapped in Puerto Vallarta.
Well, that's true. Yeah. That was just the day they were leaving. Up until then, it was great.
So Wild, good week, 5 out of 6 points. Beat up on Tampa Bay, have a great game in Vegas, and then a really, really fun hockey game in Colorado where they rally from a goal deficit, take a 2-1 lead in the third. The refs were calling slashing that night. Kirill Kaprizov gets dinged by a referee 100 feet away, which John Hines let him know about. But it got them a power play at the end. But even though the Wild went 5 for 5 on the kill, that last power play by Colorado there on the Kaprizov penalty, it pretty much led to that Nicholas Waugh tying goal. Then they go to overtime, and Colorado has the puck for the majority of overtime. Nathan MacKinnon takes a interference penalty on Ryan Hartman with 1:03 left. They don't score on the power play. He comes out of the box, scores the shootout winner. Should that be allowed in the NHL?
No, well, first let's talk about you made the reference to the slashing penalties. We were watching the game on television, and there were at least 4 penalties, a couple each way, where all of a sudden they'd blow the whistle, and because we were in Vegas, we didn't have the sound. And Vinny and I would turn to like, "Did you see it?" No, I didn't see anything. Yeah. And then a couple of the times they didn't even show it on the TV broadcast. I'm sure because they couldn't find it.
Yeah.
The overtime thing, we actually talked about it. I hadn't ever given it a ton of thought, but
it's because it rarely happens.
We talked about it as we were sitting there watching, because at first, again, we didn't have any volume. So Colorado went through their first 3 shooters. And I said, I wonder if MacKinnon got an unsportsmanlike or something, because he was yelling from the penalty box. after so I said, I wonder if he got like thrown out of the game or something, and Colorado can't use him. And it prompted us to then talk about, should you be able to? And it also led to it seems weird when you have a power play late that you don't get to complete the power play.
Right.
And, I mean, let's say you're defending in the final 10, 20, 30 seconds, it should just become jungle rules, because
that's what I talked
because why not take the penalty to avoid any kind of a scoring chance?
Yeah.
And so it would be interesting if you said, all right, well, you get to complete the power play. So if you had a minute and a half left of it, you keep playing for a minute and a half, or that player ineligible. Either one of those, I think, would be rules worth considering.
Yeah, and look, this rarely happens, but you're right. I was talking to Jonas Bordina about this in the locker room after the game, because internationally, you are not eligible to be in the shootout, and he wondered if that should be something in the NHL. But it was interesting because I was in the elevator after the game, and somebody that was not affiliated with either the Avalanche or the Wild is the one that brought this up to me. And this is somebody that works for the NHL, and he thinks it's something that the NHL should talk about. But to me, your point is even more so, and Daryl Ray tweeted about this week, is that if in 10, 15 seconds left in overtime, you might as well just pretty much, as you said, jungle rules. You could tackle anybody, because that power play is, one, you're going to stop a scoring chance, but that power play is most likely going to be meaningless if it's like with 11, 10 seconds left, whatever. And maybe this is something the league should consider, is if it's a minute and 3 with left in the game, that the power play goes to 57 seconds left in the what would can be considered the 6th minute of overtime.
I think there's a million loopholes that would be open, because then what happens if another penalty is taken during that time? Then you have to keep playing until the other team's power play expires. I mean, it's not as simple as it sounds, but I am intrigued by it. I think it's worthy of some discussion.
Yeah.
To say, because if you get a penalty at the end of regulation, it carries over into overtime. So in theory, it wouldn't be unprecedented to say something at the end of overtime carries over, whether it be extending the overtime or into a shootout.
And to me, if you're not going to extend the power play, which I'm perfectly fine with, then to me that player should not be eligible in the shootout. And you're guaranteed that player is going to probably be a shootout player, because he was on the ice in overtime. So those are usually the most skilled players. But it's just interesting. I'm not saying the Wild deserve that extra point. And I mean, this has been a rule that the league has had since they implemented shootouts. But it was just something that was brought up to me in the elevator going down, about either Nathan McKillen's eligibility to be in the shootout. But then I see Daryl Ray's tweet about extending the power play. It was just fascinating. Let's talk about that game, though. Wild, I thought, who one of the best players on the ice that night for the Wild was? Michael McCarron. He had probably 5 scoring chances. Like he looks like he could be a player.
Yeah, I thought he was good in that game.
And he scored the winning goal the night before.
Yeah, I thought he was good in that game. I thought he was good in the Vegas game. And, I mean, I think we all probably have an idea of what his ceiling as a player is. It's not like he's a guy who's going to play a significant amount of minutes. He's not going to play in your top 6, but certainly looks like he could help a team that desperately needs help on faceoffs, although they didn't get a whole lot of help in Vegas. They got run over on the dot that night and are 31st in the league. But, maybe a fourth line that has he and Nico Sturm on it, with both on only their strong side. Maybe you can get a fourth line up to high 50s or 60% on draws. But it looks like he can help on the kill. Big body with long reach. And I mean, I think he's I thought Nick Foligno looked good too in the Colorado game. So I think the pieces that the Wild added are guys that look like they'll be able to help, and will probably have some hunger, because when you start to do the math, when everybody's healthy, you're going to end up with 5 guys for 2 spots probably each night at the bottom of your lineup. And that should keep those guys motivated.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that in a second, because, our buddy Ryan, who's a football coach in the area, actually had a question via email to me on that subject, wanted me to ask you about it. But the one thing about the faceoffs is, like, look, they are not going to improve in the faceoff circle unless Joel Eriksson-Ek, Ryan Hartman, and Danilo Urov improve in the faceoff circle. When you're always trying to improve with your bottom 6 guys, unless you're willing to throw them out for a big draw on a power play or a 6-on-5 or something, it's just not going to help you. So it is up to Eriksson-Ek, like he did yesterday, to dig into the faceoff circle. He won 10 of 17 draws yesterday. That's a little over 50%, obviously. But where he was winning the draws was important. The power plays, the 4-on-3 to start the power play, to start overtime. He was winning the key draws, which is what is so important for him to continue to do.
Yeah, he still is a head scratcher for me. The fact that a guy who looks like he should be a dominant faceoff guy has never been 50% for a season in his life, in his career. And it just doesn't make any sense to me why he's not. We've talked to John Hines about it. We talked to Dean Evison about it. We talked to Darby Hendrickson about it over the years, like why, and they just said some guys it just never quite clicks, and they kept saying we think 1 year with him it's going to, and all of a sudden he's going to win 56%, and that's going to make him a legit Selke contender, and he just hasn't done it. And Yurov and Hartman are, at least for now, I mean, this is what Hartman has been most of his life, a 42, 44, 45% guy. Yurov, who knows where he'll be, but right now in the high 30s, and you start to look ahead at potential playoff matchups, and you're going up against some really good centers in, McKinnon, Nelson, Waugh in Colorado. They're so loaded at center, they're not even playing Nazem Kadri in the middle. And then you look at Dallas with Johnston and Hintz and Ben, and I mean, you're going to have your hands full on the faceoff dots, and you start chasing the puck, starting without the puck after every draw, it's probably going to catch up with you.
It was funny. It felt like Colorado was sitting there and almost like trying to tease the Wild the other day, like taunt them, like, we're so good on the circle. We're not even going to take Nazem Kadri and put him at the circle. And remember, they only got Nicholas Waugh because they thought the Kadri deal was dead. But to your point, what bothers me the most, or not bothers me, that's the wrong term, but on Eriksson Ek, is that when he wants to be, he can be elite. Like, you looked at him on that overtime and he wanted to win that draw. You looked at him on that 4-on-3, he wanted to win that draw. The power play that tied the game that tied the game up, the Capriov scored 4 seconds in the power play. He's muscling the faceoff win. And the other thing the Wild have to do is, after you win the draw, take care of the puck. There were a couple plays there yesterday where the Wild won faceoffs, 2 by Ryan Hartman, and they're just throwing pucks away. And next thing you know, one resulted in Hartman penalties. So they've just got to be more careful, obviously, with these faceoffs. The game in Vegas, outstanding. You called that game right above my head.
Yep. I hope you learned some stuff during the game.
I did. It was very instructional. What do you think of that game? Because that was a game where, again, I felt what was good about it was that their bottom six was really good. Their top line, this road trip was not very good. John Hines talked about it after the game last night. I asked him about the fact that Kirill especially has been extremely perimeter the last 3 or 4 games, frankly, and that he needs to, probably get to the interior a little more. But it was uplifting, the fact that they're starting to get depth scoring again.
Yeah, I thought those guys were decent against Vegas. They were invisible against Colorado.
Yep.
The Eck-Boldy line, playing with Bobby Brink for the first time, I thought they had flashes, but they weren't great either in either one of the games on the trip. But I thought what was interesting is this is 3 times now the Wild have seen Vegas, the team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year, the team that's leading the Pacific, and Vegas really hasn't had a chance in any of the 3.
Yeah.
Wild have beaten them all 3, and it's been a dominant performance by Minnesota in all 3. And it's a part of this stretch. I know we talked a lot about that this 7 games out of the Olympic break would probably define the Wild season, because it was 6 of the 7 against playoff teams, 2 in Denver, 1 in Vegas, a home game against Tampa, a couple against Utah. Well, they're 3-2-1 so far in the 6 games on the trip. But when you look at the wins, they're probably more impressive than the losses are troubling, because they got beaten Utah on the second of back-to-backs. They got beat at home by St. Louis on a night where they looked a little flat. But they won and then lost in a shootout in Denver. They won in Vegas. They hammered Tampa, who was playing about as well as they've played all year when they were in St. Paul. And I think it just says a lot about Minnesota's club. They're the best team in the NHL against current playoff teams. They have the best win percentage and points percentage in those games. And in these games right now, easily could have won both games in Denver, got one of the 2, hammered Vegas, hammered Tampa. I mean, these are some of the best teams in the league. and the Wild have compared favorably to all of them.
Vegas does seem to be in one right now. They're not only losing, but they're giving up. They're bleeding goals. Obviously, Schmidt is not somebody that they're going to want in the playoffs, but I think they tried to get a goaltender at the deadline and just weren't able to. Just like the Wild tried to get upgrade the center. There just wasn't a lot of deals out there. Obviously they tried on Trocheck, they tried on Riley. I think they tried on Robert Thomas, and it just kind of went nowhere, and it was more to set the table for a potential summer deal. But this summer, Anthony, is going to be really, really interesting for the Wild, because there are, Pierre LeBrun wrote about it today. There are some big names that could potentially be available this offseason. Even Pierre LeBrun's I've been talking about it like it's a pipe dream the last couple of weeks, but he brought up Austin Matthews. He brought up Brady Tkachuk. He brought up, obviously, Robert Thomas. And I think a lot of the stuff, the legwork that a lot of GMs did this past couple weeks, but especially Bill Guerin, wasn't necessary to, without a doubt, cinch a deal for now. It was to start really sizing up the market for this offseason and at least start those conversations. So now, if you're St. Louis, you kind of know what the Wild are willing to give up for somebody like Robert Thomas. And soon, I'm sure they're going to be having conversations with other teams as well.
Yeah, I agree. We had been talking about this for a while, that I think the difference for the Wild right now is that this spot is not a win this spring or nothing. It's a 3 or 4 year spot where they've got the core locked up, assuming that they can extend Quinn Hughes and keep him here for that window. That I think it was the right call by Billy to not push and overpay for a guy that might not be the ideal fit for 4 years. Even if one of those guys would have made this team better this spring, you want to be a player if the bigger names come available. And I'm sure exactly what you're saying happened, where my bet would be that there were some teams that, well, we don't want to do this week, but let's talk again in the summer, that probably has those guys believing we can't empty the wallet right now in terms of our assets. We got to make sure that we're not kicking ourselves in July when all of a sudden one of those names is available, but we don't have what it takes to bring them in a deal. So I think the Wild handled it the right way. And yes, Colorado got better. Dallas also got better, although I don't know that their moves were any more significant than Minnesota's. But what Minnesota did made them better and put them in a great spot where they didn't take themselves out of the running for a bigger splash move in the summer.
Without a doubt. And it sure looks like the Wild are guaranteed to play Dallas in the first round. They're now, isn't it crazy what's happened in 9 days? The Wild win in Denver to pull within 5 of the Avalanche, and here they are, and they have done pretty well since, but yet now they're suddenly 10 back of the Avs.
And the Avs have a couple games in hand too.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Minnesota and Dallas. It's just a matter of who's going to be
Dallas
at home.
is playing as good as anybody right now.
They are, and they're starting to get healthy, and it's it was interesting. I know that Billy has always said same thing when he was building his Olympic roster. Like, we're not building a team based on somebody else. Like, how do we beat them? How do we match up with them? We're focused on ourselves. But I know that day, John Hines was sitting and watching and was well aware of the deals being made by Dallas and by Colorado, and probably with one eye on Utah too, just because they're another divisional rival that got better with Mackenzie Weegar. But they're watching closely what those teams are doing, because for the next few years, that's who you're going to have to get past to win a division, to advance in the playoffs. And it really would make for what I think would be a really interesting series between the Wild and the Stars in the first round.
It's a shame they're not in the Pacific. When Anaheim is leading the Pacific right now, and they're 20 points behind the Avs, that's not a great
Anaheim's
division.
not going to win that division.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Edmonton's.
I think Vegas is the best team in that division, and they're hurting right now because their goaltending has been really lousy. I can't imagine it stays at the level it is. I'm not saying they're going to all of a sudden start playing like Vezina winners, but they're not this bad. And I still when we saw those guys, or we watched them a couple times, I want to say it was like late December, early January. It was right after the Wild had been out there, and they ripped off about 8 in a row. And I thought, this is now the Vegas team that I've expected to see all year. And I still think that team is in there, but now they've lost, I think, 12 out of 17 right now. And this isn't Vegas. And nobody in that division has been good enough to put them away while they've been struggling. So I believe you'll see Vegas on top of that division.
I don't know. I mean, their goaltending is weak right now on their blue line. I mean, when you don't, you lose Petro and there's
blue line's different for sure.
Yeah.
But adding Rasmus Andersson really helps them. It gives them some offense from the blue line. I just think they're the best team in that division right now. I'm not saying that they're as good as they were last year or the year before, even with where I thought their blue line core was as good as anybody's. But their goaltending isn't 32nd in the league, which is what it's been over the last 15 games.
The Eastern Conference wide open. Obviously, Carolina didn't do a lot at the deadline. They brought in Nicholas Delorier. Tampa, we just saw them. They've been having a run of losses lately, bleeding goals as well. The best team in that conference right now might be the Buffalo Sabres. Ever since I saw them play in Edmonton in December, they have been absolutely on fire. And right now, the fans are feeling it. The team is feeling it. And, man, did they have fight night against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, kind of a statement game. It sure felt like. Well, they've been the best team in the league since they changed GMs. And I think they're a legit playoff team. It's hard to bet against Tampa with the experience they have, and it starts with the experience behind the bench heading into the postseason. And Carolina, to me, just looks like Carolina has looked for a decade, where a really good regular season team, can their puck possession style carry over into the postseason? I don't know. I have my doubts.
It was really fascinating listening to Eric Tulsky talk about prices, and we know that he's always big game hunting. A couple years ago, made the Jake Guentzel deal. Last year, tried for Rantanen. Obviously, figured out a way out of that when Rantanen wasn't willing to extend there. So you know that all year long, he also has wanted to make big deals. Was in on Trocheck, and he also felt the prices were out of whack. And so he resisted and showed the same type of patience that Bill Guerin did. The only difference is that on the record, Rod Brind'Amour basically talked about his disappointment on how they didn't make a splash, which it really is unreal how sometimes, Rod's, what I respect about him is he's so emotional, but he's just willing to say it.
I'm sure he's looking at the Metro division, which has been the better division in the East, just like the Central's been the better division in the West for 10 years. And now it is down for the first time in a long time, where the strength of the East might be the Atlantic. And I'm sure he's looking around saying, why wouldn't we now take a shot when this division is here for the
Especially
taking?
when Florida probably isn't making the playoffs. So now it's like, their arch nemesis that keeps on beating them in the playoffs. It looks like they finally are going to have a clear path away from them.
Yeah, so I can see why a guy would be frustrated, but at the same time, like a coach and a GM, you better be in lockstep when it comes to those kind of decisions.
Yeah. If you have questions, we have a mic up here. You can grab a shirt if you ask a question, maybe even one of these pucks. And every time you listen to Anthony and he stresses you out, listening to the podcast, you can just squeeze the life out of this.
There'd be nothing stressful. It's just laid back and easy.
Yeah, I know. You're laid back and easy. I get frustrated by you. Tell me about your last couple of days, though. Exciting time in Vegas as you stayed a little extra time.
Congratulations to Vinny, who got engaged while we were out there. So I gave him a pass on offering thoughts for tonight's show as he was a little distracted. But it was fun. We had a great weekend with Vinny and Sydney out there and celebrated in Vegas. We've been lucky now. We've been able to be with our 3 kids who have been engaged, and we've been there for all 3 of them, which has been really fun, and it's always great to catch up with them. So what was funny is the weekend before I was in Denver with AJ, and AJ's in the booth watching the game with us, and all of a sudden as we went to commercial break, I made some comment about that the Wild will be back here a week from Sunday, and all of a sudden AJ, who doesn't really pay too close attention to what's happening around him, turns and said, "Wait, you're going to be back here next week?" And I was like, "Well, actually, no, I'm staying in Vegas, and Vinny's coming down." And he's like, "Vinny's coming to me?" I mean, it was just kind of funny, the 2-minute conversation we had during a commercial break about.
So he had no clue?
He had no idea. Which was great. But we had a lot of fun, a couple great dinners down there, and we drove out to Henderson. That was where Vinny wanted to actually do the proposal. And there's a little town out there called, I think it's called Lake Las Vegas.
Oh yeah.
Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, you fly right over it, landing in.
Well, it's really kind of a cool setup. It's a town. It's kind of set up like an old Italian town, like an old Venetian town on the water. But it was almost vacant on a Saturday afternoon.
It's like been vacant since they built it.
Yeah, but it's kind of a cool little setting.
Yeah.
And so we had a great lunch with an Italian guy named Giovanni as our waiter, and then met his fellow wait staff guy there's from Lecce. So because we're going to Lecce in May, we chatted with him about some spots to go. So it ended up being a great trip for us for getting set for our May trip prior to our July trip to Como.
Nice.
But it was we had a great trip. It was really fun.
When's Ariana getting engaged?
I don't know. We've broken a couple of her relationship status changes on this show before.
I know.
maybe we'll see if we get Landon into trouble here at some point.
Deer hunting season is here, and it's time to own your odds with OnX Hunt, the GPS hunting app trusted by millions of hunters. With the Hunt app, you'll have access to nationwide public and private land ownership information, waypoints, tracks, and much more, all at your fingertips. Go to onxmaps.com/hunt. That's onxmaps.com/hunt to sign up today. You've heard me for years talk about my Connecticut water treatment system in my house. Well, many homeowners don't realize how much hard or poor quality water affects your daily life. Issues include cloudy water, bad taste, buildup on fixtures, dry skin, appliance wear, everything. Well, I have your solution, and it's Aquarius Home Services. They are your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Connecticut systems provide worry-free water throughout your entire home. Systems right now start at $9.95 per month for the first 3 months. It's $9.95 per month for the first 3 months. Their technicians will come to your home and provide a free in-home water quality testing analysis. Aquarius handles everything from your testing to your installation. One call and your problem is solved. You can enjoy spotless dishes, softer clothes, smoother, softer skin and hair, worry-free drinking water right from your faucet. That means no more plastic water bottles, no more water cans, everything. You'll be surprised also how little salt it uses. Visit right now or book your services at AquariusHomeservices.com. That's AquariusHomeservices.com, earning the right to be recommended. That's Aquarius Home Services. And don't forget to tell them that Russo sent you.
At Royal Credit Union, we believe in banking with purpose. That's why we're here for you and your community with people-first service, local support, and all the accounts and loans you need to help reach your financial goals. As a not-for-profit cooperative, everything we do benefits the people and communities we serve, because Royal isn't just where you bank, it's where you belong. Experience the Royal Credit Union difference and learn more at rcu.org/royal support. Insured by NCUA. Loans subject to credit approval. Equal credit opportunity.
Question.
Like, God forbid we lose to Dallas in the first round in 7, and like it wasn't in 7. How likely do you see the Wild like parting ways with Hines?
I don't see it at all. Yeah, I really
like
don't.
Even if it's 5.
No, I think he's done a heck of a job with this team. I don't think that I get why you're asking the question, but I don't think that a team that is as good as they've been all year, when you are playing a team as good as Dallas, just based on how this playoff format is set up, I just don't think you make that move. That's me. What's your opinion on this?
I agree. I mean,
obviously you got to see how everything is then and all that.
Yeah, I mean, if they lose the next 18, and then it's different. But
although maybe that would give them an easier path to the playoffs.
Yeah, we've talked about the fact that when you start to analyze the plan for this roster and the plan for the team, that everything could be right coach, right GM, right plan, and still get beat in the first round because you're playing another team that's one of the top 5 or 6 in the NHL. And right now, Minnesota would be third. They'd be on the road, which would mean that technically they're the underdog in that series, and they're supposed to lose in what should be a competitive series. So I don't think I suppose if you go down and you lose 4 games in a row, 8-0, that might be different. But unless something absolutely bizarre happens, I don't think there's any chance.
And is that like the same with Billy G? Do you think he has a longer leash than Hines?
I think they both have a leash that's long enough to get through this 3 or 4 year window. Again, unless something crazy happens where they go belly up. But I think this team's going to be competitive for the next 3 or 4 years. And I mean, like really competitive. And those two guys are going to be a part of it.
Yeah. And I mean, the Quinn Hughes trade, I think, changes the whole outlook of this team in this next little window. But as everything I do think that Craig Leopold is anxious for a long playoff run too, especially when you invest this type of money and everything from assets to capital and all that stuff. But I think both, I think both Bill and Hines are safe. And I especially think of that because of Bill. There was also so many coaching changes that you get to make as a GM. So I think they are in lockstep, and that Bill would never just get rid of the coach alone, because then, I mean, there just comes a point where everything then points to him. But right now, I mean, there's no use thinking about this. I mean, this team is a really good team, and to me, the goal is for this team to go on a run. I mean, I spent today, an hour and a half at a player's house today working on a story that's gonna run Friday, and this. I mean, I have never seen this player, as long as I've known him, so bullish on a team. Like, he just thinks they are freaking awesome and has a chance to go on a big time run here, and that's what he's hoping for. And it was just fascinating to listen to his scouting report of why. And he just, I mean, he's anxious to get going. Like, he just wants to start the playoffs now. So it was so that story will be in Friday's Athletic.
Awesome. All right, thanks, guys.
Yep.
How are you?
How are you?
Good. 2 questions. If you were going to be the coach of the Wild and you could pick one lineup, nobody coming in later, one lineup, 4 lines, sets of defensemen, one goaltender, who would you pick? And secondly, who do you see as the team that's going to win the Stanley Cup this year, and who's going to be the 2 runner-ups?
So again, your first question, though, before you walk away. So I'm not understanding your first question.
Just a wild
In other words, if
line-
you
a
could
wild
put it,
lineup.
So in history?
No.
No.
Oh.
Just for this year.
Yep.
So you pick 4 lines, but
Mm-hmm.
you can't have anybody coming in or out. Just what you're set with.
I got you.
Your sets of defensemen and your one goaltender.
Mm-hmm. Which gets us back to to Ryan's question too: is who are the if they're completely healthy, who do you think the 3 forwards are out? I mean, I think clearly it's going to be Fabry, Nico Sturm, and then the question is who's next? Is it Tarasenko?
I don't. I think the third line probably has Tarasenko, Yurov, and Brink right now. And that leaves you a fourth line where I said before, I thought it's 6 guys
Foligno,
for 3
McCarron,
spots.
Trennan?
Foligno, McCarron, Trennan maybe to start.
And you think Nick Foligno out to start the playoffs?
I would right now probably.
Interesting.
But I think it probably comes down to Nick Foligno or McCarron as that last guy. I mean, I just don't
think
see
McCarron's in.
I don't see a spot though where you pull Yurov, Trennan, Tarasenko.
So let me
out
ask
of
you
the
though,
lineup.
from a face-off perspective, do you think there is any chance they'd pull Yurov?
Well, I think there's a chance, but I think he's going to get the first shot, and I would give him the first shot. I think his game's been good enough where
I thought
warrants,
he was great in both Colorado and Vegas.
Yeah, he warrants staying in the lineup. I think Brink has shown that he's got the ability within the night even to jump up in the lineup. So I think he's probably a third line guy. So your fourth line just becomes there's a lot of pretty good players on that fourth line. But
what
if it's
would be
me,
your pick?
mine would be Marcus Foligno, McCarron, and Trennan to start. And I may go the 2 Folignos and put Nick in instead of McCarron. That would be my last spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think your current top 6 is what I would go with, meaning Johansson instead of Brink. I would go with a third line of Yurov, Tarasenko, and Brink, and then probably the fourth line. I just have this feeling though Tarasenko might be the guy out. I don't know. I mean, there's just part of me that just wonders.
He's a second power play guy though, and they're going to need the second power play in a playoff series. I think it's gonna end up being the bottom 6 guys. I mean, I think Sturm and Fabry are very likely to be the 2 guys out. I really think it probably comes down to McCarron or Nick Foligno.
Yeah.
But Russo, what would you pick for your fourth line?
I would probably have Nick Foligno in and Tarasenko out, and then I would go with the all Russian line, and then I have the 2 Folignos and McCarron.
Okay. And so and the last question was, who do you pick to win the Stanley Cup, and who are your 2 runner-ups?
Go with you.
Well, Colorado's the best team, but they're going to have a more difficult path than the team that comes out of the East. But I think the champ comes from the West this year. I'll take Colorado and probably Tampa as the team that gets to the final against them.
Yeah, I'll go Carolina, and I'll go Buffalo this year in the final. Yeah.
Well, you can't have Carolina and Buffalo in the final.
No, sorry, I meant Colorado. Colorado and Buffalo. So,
Thanks for doing this. Appreciate the podcast.
yeah.
Thank you.
How concerned should we be, if at all, about the Capriov contract that kicks in next year, given that an argument could be made that he's the third most productive player on the team right now?
Well, we've talked about this a little bit on our broadcast recently. Like, I'm not exactly sure why there's so much question about what Kaprizov's season's been. I mean, he's 6th in the league in points. He's in the top 3. I guess I didn't look at what happened yesterday or elsewhere in the league, but he's 3rd in the league in goals. He's 3rd in the league in power play goals. I mean, and this is in what I think a lot of people look at as kind of an off year for him. And I'd caution to, like, he hasn't looked as dominant as he has looked in previous years, but he's still producing, and he's producing without the center that was with him last year that scored 60 points. They haven't had a playmaking center with him all year. It's been Yurov and Hartman, and neither one of those guys, I don't think anybody in the league would say that's a prototypical top-line center. So I think the criticism of his lack of production might be a little exaggerated, but I also, even if it wasn't, just from a dollar standpoint, with how much the cap is going up, I don't think his contract is going to hurt the Wild in the future. I saw one projection now
130
of getting to 130 in a couple of years, where if it was staying where it is right now, and 17 million could put the rest of the team in a pinch. I just think right now, by the time I don't know what it'll be, 3 years from now, I think there will be other guys that are in that same level. And I just don't think it's going to pinch teams the way it would have if the cap was staying flat.
That was my concern. So if he's making $17 million next year and Boldy's on what, 9?
7.
7, and then if we're lucky enough to re-sign Hughes, is he going to be anywhere near 17? I mean, is
He's
that
probably
gap
a $14 or $15 million player. I mean, if he could absolutely make a case that you have to give him he could make the case that you could give him what Kirill has. The
You
only
think
thing
that
I would
causes any
say
problems?
is I do think that he's got an agent that is, pretty reasonable, and a lot of it's going to depend what happens with McCarr too, and what his number is. Different agents. McCarr coincidentally has Boldy's agent. So.
And the length of the contract. If Hughes is willing to lock in for 8 years, that the number gets different than if he says, I just want a 3-year deal, then the dollar number probably comes down considerably. But if he's willing to lock in, I think the Wild will do whatever it takes to make that happen. And I just think with the rest of the cap going up, the rest of the roster can still be filled effectively. And I think we've seen what the difference is when you have the star power the Wild have right now. I mean, there aren't very many teams that have Boldy, Kaprizov, and Hughes at the top of their roster, not to mention the Eriksson, X, and Fabers and guys like that. But I'm just saying those 3, they are superstars. There aren't 5 better at their position in the league for any one of those guys.
Do those guys feel badly? And this is a purely speculative question, but I mean, does somebody like Boldy, who's on 7, feel like, well, I've got more goals than Kaprizov, and he's making more than double?
I don't know what
myself?
he's thinking internally, but he has shown absolutely no evidence of that. I mean, man, the way he plays.
Yeah.
And he's still handsomely paid, but you're right.
He's not living in the poverty line, and everybody signs the contract when they get the best deal they can get at that time. And he got rewarded. If you remember when he signed, there were some people who thought it's too early to commit to Matt Boldy because he hasn't proven himself yet. So he signed that contract and took some of the risk of what he would become out of his own hands. Like everybody gets the best deal they can get at the time, and very rarely do guys then begrudge somebody else for signing for more. And he also knows when that next contract comes up, he might be able to name his price because of the fact that he's still going to be a young
player. But with the cap going up, as long as it just continues to skyrocket the way that people are projecting it, you could pay Quinn and still go after a Brady, an Austin, or something like that, and know that you're going to be able to pay them. The question is then, what do you fill around that? And especially when you're trading away a lot of your prospects and picks, so you're not going to have a lot of these entry-level guys. Because all of a sudden, like...
Well, look at what happened to Edmonton.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
That's what
their
you don't
roster
want
got so top heavy, and then they didn't have prospects, so they ended up filling 2 lines and a third pair with veterans at the league minimum every year, and that way it made it tough.
Yeah, but clearly the way the Wild are trying to build this right now, it's a different way of trying to build a team. They are going the opposite of prospects and picks. Like they are. The way their cap is going up, their goal will be to constantly acquire. The question is, do you eventually run out of these prospects and picks to use as currency? Which I think is the biggest concern here, is that, at some point that's going to be a problem, because even right now, like I know some Wild fans the other day were on top of the world that they didn't give away Stramel and Urov and Wallstedt. They are probably goners. I mean, they really are, because these are their best prospects. If you're getting in on an Austin Matthews trade or a Brady Tkachuk trade or a Jack Hughes trade, it's not going to be just for Charlie Stramel and Carson Lambos. It's going to have to be Wallstedt, Urov, maybe another really good player.
Number 1 pick, probably.
Yeah, I mean, so this is going to be a cycle to try to win a cup here, and this is the way they're going. And he's not. That's why I did like the Brink trade, because now you're adding a 24-year-old. Maybe you use him as an asset. Maybe you're recouping an asset that you're giving away. You're bringing in a young guy at the beginning of what should be a really good career. I think that's a good thing for an organization that's trading away a lot of picks and prospects here, and that is going to continue. So it's going to be fascinating to watch how Bill Guerin does this. So, yep. Question.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to both of you. I just
thank
huge
you.
fan of what you do on
Thank you.
I appreciate
X and on TV. 2 quick questions. First one, I know we've talked a lot. You guys both talked about it. But for the NHL to go to the legitimate playoff format that literally every other sport on the planet has, would that be a matter of, like, in the off season, during rules committees where the teams could vote on it, or is it totally at the behest of Gary Bettman wanting to change the playoff format to a 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7 in the West?
Yeah, I mean, well, everything would have to be collectively bargained. Like, this is actually a CBA thing, so it couldn't be just that the league, that Gary Bettman next year says it's time to change the playoff format. They could do it in advance of the CBA if they get with the Players Association and do some sort of amendment. But this playoff format is sort of locked and loaded. I know that Anthony and I can disagree on this. I continue to just think it's absurd that you have a playoff format where, and I know everything, you can't predict how good teams are going to be. But when you're playing everybody pretty much a balanced amount of time, you're playing almost the same amount of times that you're playing inside your division as the other team in the other division in your conference. I just think it's absurd, this playoff format where you have such an easier path. Like, the fact that right now Utah is going to get to play Anaheim in the first round potentially is crazy. It's nuts. And that you should not have a format that knocks 2 of the top 4 teams out of the league by the time the conference final comes around. It just, and I get, like, Anthony's done the math before and the standings barely change. But in this playoff format, the risk that you take is what's happening now. And it to me, the playoff format makes sense if it's back in the old days when I first started covering the league and you played inside your division 6-8 times. The fact that you're playing inside your division 4 or 5 versus 3 in the other, I don't know. It just seems crazy to me.
Yeah, and obviously I disagree, only because I think the format has done exactly what it was designed to do, and you have to reward teams for winning their division. So they're going to be the 1 and the 2. Minnesota would then be the 4. Dallas would be the 3. Minnesota would be the 4. most years it isn't that big a difference who you face. I remember last year, I think it would have been or 2 years ago, it was like, well, the Wild would have played Edmonton instead of Dallas. And they're both legit contenders. It's, if you don't win your division, you're going to face a contender in the first round. And that's really the reality of it in both conferences most times, is if you take out the two division winners against the wild card, the other games, almost every year, those teams are legit contenders. So if you don't win your division, you're going to face a team that could beat you in the first round, and it's the playoffs. It's the way it's supposed to go.
Okay. Thank you. And then my second question, and I realize it only matters maybe
Do you want one of these pucks, by the way, when we're done?
Sure.
Because I think that it would be useful for all of us on this playoff format subject.
So this will probably matter 0 or 1 more game during the regular season. But in the shootout, and I agree with you that Capriov, we can't be looking a gift horse in the mouth or whatever. He still scores his goals. It just seems he isn't quite as controlling of the puck as you've seen in the past.
Yeah, look, Anthony is 100% right about the stats, but I will tell you, inside the organization, I think they feel the way that some of the fans do right now. They have not been pleased with what they've been seeing so far this year. They want him to take more. Every single game, you see Matt Boldy absolutely going to the net, getting 7, 8, 9 shooting attempts a game. And Kirill just seems to be sort of on the perimeter this year. And it can't all be because he doesn't have a number one center.
Well, there's a difference. And Boldy's been playing with Eriksson Ek, who's the best center on the roster.
Right.
He's been playing with Marcus Johansson, who's playing at a different pace than Hartman or Zuccarello are playing. And Kaprizov has more shots than Boldy does over the course of the year. So it's just I can tell you, we talk to the coaches about it every day, and we talk to the coaches every day, and quite often Kaprizov's game has come up, and John's kind of scratching his head the same way, where he said, there's times where I'll look and I'll walk away from a game thinking he doesn't look like his same dominant self. And then I'll go look at the sheet at the end, and he had more attempts than anybody on the team. He led the team in shots on goal. His expected goals for were very high. Like he said, I think we just all expect to see that, whatever you want to call when he used to circle the offensive zone sometimes. But that was when, to be frank, he was playing with better guys on his line than he's been playing with most of this year.
But again, there's not an aura of dominance to his game. Like last night, every single shift that Nathan MacKinnon was out there,
MacKinnon looked like I would have bet he had 25 shots on goal when the game was over.
That's what I mean. And you see that almost every single game, and it just feels like a lot of this year, the best player on the other team is outperforming Kirill. So I don't know what's going on, if his contract's in his head, if he's he had a major injury last year that maybe it's going to just take a little bit for him to get back to his normal self. Remember when he had the lower body injury with the Logan Stanley play? It almost felt like it took him a long time to get back. So maybe we just haven't seen that side of him. But what I did, and I watched him a lot yesterday, and I watched him a lot in Vegas, and it just seems like he's not getting to the inside. It seems like he's not trying to get to the inside.
Maybe more. You talked about the offensive stats, but this may be selective memory, but it seems like he just seems to turn the puck over more than in the past.
Yeah, definitely at the beginning of the season. I haven't seen so much lately. I saw a lot of that talk online yesterday, and maybe I didn't I watched a lot of his game yesterday. He's a risk taker. His play, he wants to try to get the puck off. There's certain guys that want the puck on a stick to make something happen. His thing is to sort of have the puck delivered to him, and he wants to do give and goes. He talks about it all the time. And so right now, I don't know. But the one thing that I am a little sensitive to, that does bother me a lot, is there just seems to be this, whenever he's not playing up to the standards of some fans, they're quick to blame Hartman. Like Hartman's been really good lately.
Yeah, Hartman's been fine.
Yeah.
But he isn't a guy that plays at a pace that pushes Kaprizov's pace.
Right.
And that's all I'm saying. Ryan Hartman he's been good, and he's also shown that he's a playoff player. So I expect that we'll see his game hit a new level. But there's also a ceiling to what his game is, just based on pace. And that when Kaprizov's at his best is when he's playing with players that drive the pace on his line or match his pace.
And
Thank
look, again, the Wild see this. Like Bill Guerin is not going to sit there and come out and say we tried to do this, this, and this, and this, but they tried to do some things. Like they were in on Robert Thomas, not to the point where anything I don't think was close, but they tried. They were in on Ryan O'Reilly, again, not a pace player. Wouldn't have like all of a sudden changed from that standpoint. Trocheck. And if you add one of those guys, maybe it allows you to put Eriksson Ek back with them. Maybe it allows, that. Like, let's put it this way. If they got Trocheck or Ryan O'Reilly or somebody, it wouldn't have solved all the issues from a true number one standpoint. Like, there does seem to be this belief out there that Vincent Trocheck was the missing link to the Wild finally acquiring a number one center. No way. That's why, to Anthony's point at the beginning of the show, I would much rather, I know fans don't want to hear this anymore, but I'd much rather Bill Guerin exercise the patience that he did here to go and try to get a big time stud this offseason. Like whether or not he could do it, who knows, right? It's been 25 years that we haven't seen that true number one center in this organization. So, but when they traded Marco Rossi, this is sort of, not that Marco's the true number one center, but he's the closest the Wild have had to it,
And then one really quick parting question is, if you guys had to do one thing to fix the shootout lines, what would you do?
Fix the shootout lines.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, take a puck. Definitely. You could take a shirt too, but definitely take a puck. It's a stress reliever. I have one in my car too that I actually have. Look, it's this. I've already taken off the. I might have to.
You should just relax.
Yeah, look, there's the worst.
I know. I've been watching you grind on this thing.
I also have one in my car that was given to me by and not because I was pulled over, by a trooper once. So I have a Minnesota Troopers puck in my car. It was given to me at a Quick Trip once. So anyway, what were you talking about?
You started rambling. I stopped listening.
Shootout. Shootout. Probably stopped using Tarasenko. Look, Kirill, I don't have any qualms with John Hines using him, but you look at his numbers, and this has been the case with a lot of stars in this league. Like Marian Gaborik was automatic on breakaways in regulation, but in shootouts he wasn't very good. We've seen that there's been a lot of examples of stars that haven't been great in shootouts. Kirill clearly isn't, but trust me, if the Wild lost yesterday and went with Bobby Brink instead of Kirill, the reaction would have been, why the hell are you not using Kirill? He makes $17 million a year. Like it's easy to second guess your shootout lineup if they don't win it, right? And so I don't know. Would you try Eriksson Ek? I've seen him in shootouts when they do the shootout drills in practice. He's usually really good. I don't know what Bobby Brink's history is in that situation. Who knows about a Quinn Hughes? We've seen him on a couple breakaways, and he hasn't finished on either breakaway that he's had so far with the Wild. I hate the shootout so much that I don't really care.
Yeah. You get to a shootout, it's a coin flip anyway. Thankfully, we're getting to the playoffs where there will be no more shootout.
Yep. So.
You brought up a couple things that I wanted to discuss. Wellstead. So you have Gustafsson, who played absolutely lousy in the Olympics. And unless he was injured or something, I'm going to guess that was nerves. And so, Boston had that, I can't remember, what was their goaltending tandem, Swayman and
Swayman.
Yeah, that was so good. Do you believe that now the Wild should keep Wellstead to keep that tandem intact? Because if Gustafsson goes south in the playoffs or gets injured, we need a guy like that in the future. Obviously, this year we'll have him. But do you think Guerin, if he had to go after, let's say, Matthews or Brady Tkachuk, that would be a smart move to include Wellstead in that deal?
You're not getting either of those guys if you don't. Who are they going to trade then?
Right.
Right? It's going to have to be him.
Well, but I'm asking you, would you make that trade?
Yeah, I probably would. I think Gustafsson you look at Gustafsson's numbers as a Wild goaltender in the playoffs, it's been fantastic. He really has been. The only issue that I remember so far is in Dallas on the PK. But if you actually look at his numbers throughout that, he was good. I thought he was great against Vegas. I mean, like, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I think if you want to get something, you have to give something. None of the blue chip centers that we've talked about, I can't imagine the Wild have enough to offer if they don't include Wallstedt. They don't want to trade him. Well, it depends on who the guy is.
Well, let's say you're going after Brady Tkachuk or
I wouldn't do it for
Millions.
I wouldn't do it for Brady Tkachuk. I would do it for Austin Matthews.
You would.
If Austin Matthews is in a deal and I have to give up Wallstedt to get him, I would do it in a heartbeat.
And trust me, they would have done it for Robert Thomas. Remember, they're not going to then just go with, you or me in goal. They're going to go get another goalie, and the hope is that goalie pushes Gus too. There's always going to be a number 2. So,
I mean, you'd love to be able to avoid it. They'd love to be able to make this deal and keep both goaltenders for a million reasons, but you just can't. I mean, realistically, that's what you have. That's your asset. Just like their asset is Austin Matthews or Brady Tkachuk.
and I don't even know if that's going to be
Robert
enough.
Thomas.
Like there's a really good chance that everybody's going to look at the Quinn Hughes template and say, I'm not giving up Austin Matthews for, a unsure thing goalie and a center like Yurov that hasn't proven yet. Like, it's probably like the one thing about Marco Rossi is he was a 60-point guy. One thing about Z Boyum is he had number 1 overall pick talent. Liam Ogren, a first-round pick. So, I'm not even positive the Wild are going to be able to. If Austin Matthews is available, I just have trouble buying that the Wild are going to have enough assets to get it done compared to every other team in the league that's going to try to get him. That would probably give up like legit players off their roster to get him. So, but it's like they're gonna go get another goalie. It's not just going to be. I can't imagine it's going to be like Philip Gustin and Samuel Halava is the backup,
Right.
And this is not something we have to worry about now. I mean, maybe all of a sudden something does happen to Gus this postseason while he comes on that's unbelievable. Then it either turns him into a sure thing prospect to trade, or to your point, it might make Bill Guerin say, you know what, that's not worth it because you need goaltending to win a cup.
Well, the reason I brought it up is because of how lousy he was in the
Right.
But
But I haven't
he
seen
was
that in the
really,
playoffs.
really bad.
Yeah, he absolutely was. I don't know the exact reason for it. I don't necessarily think it was nerves. I just think that he wasn't very good. He just went through a blip. But we have seen him, like, to me, in his playoff debut in Game 1 against Dallas, wasn't that his playoff debut for the Wild, where he made 50 saves in a double overtime win? That to me is more of a pressure situation than what he faced in, a round robin game in the Olympics. That's just my opinion.
Well, Trocheck, I was looking at Trocheck's numbers, and I don't follow him at all. I don't, watch the Rangers, but his numbers don't seem that great. Why was he such a big deal
Because there's not a lot of centers out there. Because he, made himself a shiny asset during the Olympics by being good on the PK and
a good faceoff guy. And the Rangers were one of the few teams that was clearly out in a year where there was so much parity. So many teams were, are we going to be sellers or are we going to be buyers? The Rangers you knew were selling early. So everybody started talking about their assets just because there wasn't a chance they were going to win 4 in a row and all of a sudden say, we're not dealing anybody.
Yeah, he just seemed very middle of the road or less to me with his numbers. I don't know what he is as far as everything else. But and lastly, and this is completely off topic, the Maple Leafs. I get the impression that the Maple Leafs are a country club franchise like the Wild used to be. When it comes down, I think whether they've won one playoff round in how many years, Anthony?
It's been a long time.
Okay, and they got all these star players. So can you comment on why you think the Maple Leaf organization, for one thing, they got 5-7 assistant GMs, and then some guy, then they got the board, and then they got the guy on top of above the board. So can you just comment on why this organization is just so damn lousy, no matter who they bring in? Thanks.
I think there have been people looking for that answer for 25 years. Because they had a core of players that they thought. They were talking multiple cup runs with the core that they had, and that they're playing a game at a pace nobody else can play with guys like Matthews and Marner and Nylander leading the way, and it just has never worked out. I don't think it's a country club though, because if it is, it's a country club under a microscope. I mean, they are criticized publicly and in the media there more than in any market in the league. Their game, their life, everything they do, every failure they have. But so I don't know what it is, but I think they've been scratching their head for why they can't take the next step for a long time. And I think right now everybody's talking about like it's just time to blow up this core that we thought was gonna win multiple cups. And sometimes it's been goaltending, but they've had some good goaltenders come through there over the years. Sometimes it's been defense, but they've had some decent defensemen, and it just has never all worked out for them at the right time.
Yeah.
So that's why people are rumored to say, or there are rumors swirling that they might be willing to move Matthews, but it would have to be a Matthews for 4 pieces to really just try to build with a different core.
And, before it was Mitch Marner's fault. Now it's William Nylander and Austin Matthews' fault. They're not a very deep team. Like their third and fourth lines are not something that like I would take the Wild's third and fourth lines in a minute over those. Their blue line's not great. They're obviously so I don't know. I mean, I do think the microscope has something to do with it. Although I hate that Anthony blamed the media. It's just such a
no. I was just saying that I don't think it's a country club.
Kidding.
That it's because I think they are criticized there. And I mean,
basically he was saying that the Minnesota media is soft and the Toronto media tells it like it is. That's the way I read.
Well, the Minnesota media is soft, that's for sure.
Yeah. Question. Last one of the show, unless somebody wants to come on up, but we're gonna wrap up the show.
So Guerin had some very pointed comments towards Brink when he came over in that trade.
All right. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I did want to talk about that.
I was wondering, is that due to some behavioral issues, or is that just who Guerin is as a guy?
No. This is so Bill. Maybe it's funny because I put the tweet out there, not even thinking about what the reaction was going to be, and then all of a sudden I saw outside our market like Philly fans going nuts and other people going nuts, and right now Billy is. There are fans out there that just want to rip Billy about anything just because of the whole Cash Patel thing and things like this. The reason why it was something that didn't faze me is because this has been Billy's MO with Minnesotans that he's brought in here in the past. He said similar stuff, and he usually does it with a smile on his face and things like this. And the context to it is actually self-deprecating to him. It's that he felt, as a former Massachusetts native, that he did not handle playing for the Bruins the right way. So he always gives Minnesotans that he acquires sort of the same pep talk. This one came out, in words, harsher than the way it sounded. He did it with a smile, he laughed, but he's serious too. And the thing that he was saying is because he's acquiring a 24-year-old from Minnesota here in the middle of a playoff run with a team that has aspirations to go and win a Stanley Cup, and that he was sort of just living in a Bill Guerin sort of way on the phone saying, now, this is not a family reunion. Your parents can go buy tickets. Your friends can buy tickets. You're coming here to play hockey. So while it was serious, he didn't mean it nearly as harsh as it was. He would have said that to any Minnesotan that he acquired. So that's sort of. I'm glad you brought it up because there were, I tried to almost explain it in my Brink story the other day, 2 days ago. We'll have to get you a subscription. So,
but it also is. It isn't even behavioral too. It's just distractions.
Yeah,
like you're going to have people asking you for tickets and pulling you a million different ways. Yeah, just remember you're here. It's not just about going and partying with your buddies either. It's just know that you have to be able to say no. You have to be able to say, you guys can get your own tickets. Yeah. I can't be the concierge for you here every day.
But it is interesting because of the way that you asked that question. Part of me does wonder if Bobby Brink even knows, this is not something against you. He didn't mean it as harshly as it sounded on the phone. I'm sure Bobby Brink, he wakes up in Philadelphia and all of a sudden he's on the phone with Bill Guerin and he's hearing these words, and Bill's probably doing it in his normal Bill Guerin type of way. And he's like, well, what the heck has he heard about me? It has nothing to do with Bill Guerin. It has nothing to do with Bobby Brink. It has nothing to do with his dad or his mom or his friends. This is something that he tells everybody here. But in a lot of ways, while he's half kidding, he is being serious because, you come here and when you're from here, there's just, you got lifelong equity here and your friends and all this stuff that are all excited that you're back. And it's like, hey, I want to come see you. And I want to be at your first game tomorrow in front, just imagine how many people are reaching out to Bobby to go to a 4-game homestand, 6 out of the next 7 at home. And Bobby right now is just trying to get his freaking wits about him. And, so he's giving him his advice in a Bill Guerin sort of way that is, I don't want to say unserious because it's obviously he means it, but he doesn't mean it as harshly as it came across on X. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And then
Great
just
question.
finally, given the way that the Wild are moving, we're trading away a lot of our youth, a lot of our draft picks and whatnot. If Brink performs well, could you see a contract extension with term in the offseason if he finishes out strong?
Yeah, like he's a pending RFA, so he's gonna get qualified, I would assume. And if he's not thrown into a deal because now he's become an asset. Yeah, I don't know about term though. Like, the one thing about him, we're talking about all these, like they're gonna have to buy some UFA years out. They have a great relationship with his agent, Ben Hankinson. But the one thing, Anthony, that I would say is because of all these, the fact they got to re-sign Quinn and because they want to go big game hunting and all that, you don't want to get yourself locked up to a contract that might not work. So to me, Bobby Brink's still in a prove it stage. And
Absolutely.
I would, if I were him, I'd bet
But
on
I wouldn't be surprised if it's a team friendly deal. And he still hasn't, what's his best year been 13 goals, I think, in the NHL. I mean, he's got to show more before they're going to say, hey, let's commit to this guy for 4 or 5 years. But it wouldn't shock me if there was some kind of a 3-year at a very team-friendly price and that Brink would have interest in it, just thinking, hey, I got a chance here to be a part of a winning team in my hometown for a few years where I'm not going to have the spotlight on me, and maybe that's going to be a great spot for me to produce.
Yep. Great questions. Thanks to everybody for coming on out to Elsie's. We will have some live shows in April as well. 4-game homestand here. Anthony will work a couple of the games. That's very nice of him.
Got to get on and work on the short game in between.
I will be missing, I think, the 4th game of this homestand and the game in Chicago next week, I think, because I'm at the GM's meetings. Leave Sunday for that.
So you're taking 2 of the next 5 off. I'm taking 2 of the next 4 off.
Yep. But we're both getting paid. How nice is that?
It's
that's
a beautiful world.
We'll have to figure a way to do a podcast. Probably I'll be down in Florida and you'll be here for that. So we'll figure that out. But thanks to everybody coming out on Elsie's on this awesome Monday night. Thanks to our incredible sponsors and for joining us on location at Elsie's Aquarius Home Services studio. Aquarius Home Services, your local authorized dealer for Connecticut water treatment systems, who, by the way, are coming to my house Wednesday to do my tune-ups.
Perfect.
Royal Credit Union and Onyx Maps. Thanks for everybody for coming on out.
Thank you.
So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive